Hi, my name's Kathy. Welcome. Today I'm going to be doing my hair, makeup, and discussing the case of Debra Sue Spicer. So Debra was born July 13th, 1962. And she was born in Ohio, but her family moved to California when she was 5. And they were there for a couple of years, and then they moved to Oregon. So they moved to an area near Portland, which most people know that area. The area that they moved to was Grwm, and it still is called Grwm. So when she was in high school, she had a lot of friends. She was popular. She was really active, and she liked to ski and stuff like that. So this was in the 1980s, and by all accounts, she was a popular, nice girl. Later on, she had a job as a secretary, but she started getting migraines, like really bad migraines, and she ended up missing so much work that she ended up just quitting her job because she had to call out so often. And at this point, she's about 27 years old. And since she stopped working, she had a lot of time on her hands. So she started to drink a lot. And it wasn't like problematic or anything. It was just she liked to go out with her friends and go to the bar. And I think that's pretty normal for most 27-year-olds. So October 6th of 1989, she went to a little dinner get-together with her family members, some cousins that she was close with, and she brought her boyfriend too. And her boyfriend had been fighting. I'm not sure what they were fighting about, but they had been fighting and weren't getting along, but they still went to this dinner together. And Debra made some stir fry for them, and they had an okay time, but eventually Debra ended up leaving. She just headed out. And so she's gone. I'm not sure when her and her boyfriend end up separating, but he goes his way, she goes hers. And later on, 3 o'clock in the morning, she showed back up at her cousin's house with 2 other people, a man and a woman. And they were like a married couple that she had just met. But the cousins had never met these people before. But Debra wasn't acting weird or anything. She wasn't acting like in distress or uncomfortable or anything. She just stopped by to say, hey, these are some people that I met. We're gonna go back to their place and hang out. And everything seemed fine. The people that she was with seemed nice, according to her cousins. And it seems like her cousins were close with her. So she goes off with them, and then at 4 o'clock in the morning, she calls her boyfriend, and she just calls him up and says she's kind of drunk, and she's explaining where she's at, or trying to explain where she's at, but she's not exactly sure because she's drunk. She's never been here before, and she's kind of like wanting to come home, or just expressing that she's feeling kind of like in an awkward situation. And her boyfriend had been fighting, so he wasn't in any hurry to go and rescue her from the situation, but she told him that they wanted to have a threesome with her, and that she wasn't into it. She didn't really want to. She didn't sound scared or anything. She was just like, this is kind of awkward. It'd be nice to like go home, but she couldn't really explain like where exactly she was at, so I guess she decided that she was just gonna stay the night and just keep partying, see how it all pans out. So they end the conversation, and that is the last time that anyone speaks to Debra. So that's the last time that she is heard from. And then radio silence. So the next day, early in the morning, there's some fishermen going fishing, and there's a certain spot that they all go to. There was apparently several of them. They weren't fishing on boats, they were fishing off the shore, just enjoying the day. And it's early, and there's a couple of people out there. Anyways, one particular person was sitting waiting and had noticed that at the top of a mountain that a van had pulled up. And so he just kind of made note of it, and maybe they're having a picnic or something. It's the weekend, it's Saturday morning, so he's kind of makes note of it, but then he just kind of forgets about it, and he's just enjoying some relaxing fishing time. But then he notices some movement up there, so he starts to pay more attention, and he sees a really tall man, kind of like lumberjack looking, carrying a naked person's body. And he also notices a second person, but can't really see them very well. Anyways, the large man takes the body and just threw it over the cliff. So this is a shocking thing to see. But the body doesn't make it all the way down to the water. It gets stuck on kind of an overhang or a cliff part of the mountainside. So this large man, starts climbing down the mountainside and retrieves the body and shoves it off, and then the body makes it into the water. He gets into the van, peels out, they're out of there. So this fisherman that's watching all of this is looking around and starts to yell, like, there's a body, did anyone see that? And nobody pays attention to him. Everyone just ignores him. They're fishing, it's their time, don't bother me. But so nobody reacted, which isn't that something? But the body ends up washing up and getting stuck. So that's when it's kind of hard to ignore at that point. So it's a young woman's body. One guess who it is. So that's when everyone kind of springs into action and calls the authorities. And some of them stay and some of them leave, but police do show up. So police come and they start investigating. They pull the body out. The poor girl had been stabbed repeatedly. She had been strangled. And it looked like she had been held down. They didn't get anything from her fingernails or anything like that. So it didn't seem like she had an opportunity to fight back. It really looked like she had been held down. She was naked, so they couldn't find anything to identify her, but she did have one little turquoise earring in. The other one was missing. So that's really all that they had. But they really wanted to get to the bottom of this as quickly as they could. So they immediately started calling out to other surrounding area police stations, and they also put out a public announcement just asking for any tips, and because they didn't want to just wait around for somebody to call in a missing persons, because they could be waiting forever. Okay, so October 8th, so the next day, a relative calls in a missing persons report on Debra. And that's when things get moving pretty quickly, which is great because if you think about it, this is all happening really fast. This is all happening really early on. So that's always a good thing, even though, I mean, she still passed away, which isn't good. So police are moving, they identify her, which is great, and they get a rundown on everything that happened that evening from her cousins, and they get a hold of the boyfriend because we all know how that goes. So he explains to them that they had been fighting, but they still had a meal together, but then she ended up, being gone all night with somebody else. He mentioned the phone call, which at first investigators were not buying it. Like, it did sound like a made-up story to them, but they did have the cousins to corroborate that. So they had 2 people to connect to her. So they're trying to figure out where they could have been, if anyone knows who these people are. They find out that the bar that she was at with these 2 people, and it's in Portland. And so they go to the bar and ask some questions and quickly get witnesses. People know the names of these 2 people. They immediately have names to go on, so we're moving really quickly. The names that they are given are Randy Charles Bacorny and Debra Lynn Bacorny. I hope I'm saying the name right, although I honestly don't give a crap because these people mean nothing to me. But for your listening pleasure, I hope I said that right. So they get these names, look them up, follow, try to figure out who these folks are. And they had only been in Oregon for just a couple of months. And this married couple had only been married for like 4 months or something, so not very long. So they start tracking them and find out that they're from Wisconsin and that they both have a long history of violence. So Randy has like a long rap sheet, so much to the point that he spent more time behind bars than outside of them. So he was a real nuisance in the town that he was from. It was just like an obscene amount of problems that the police had with him. It's like more than a normal criminal, I guess. But this guy stood out because he was really big, but also because he had tattoos all over his arms, and he had a tattoo of a girlfriend's name across his chest. This stuff stood out then because it was 1989, and so usually there's only a few kinds of people that had tattoos then, especially like on their arms and in their chest. He also had one on his face, a teardrop, so that can't be good. So back then it was like you're either military, which it's going to be like a 1 on your arm or something, or biker or criminal, which usually those things go hand in hand back then. Okay, the times have changed. Things are different now. So he stood out. He was so easy to track down. So tracked him down, long rap sheet. Same with his wife. She had a history of violence. Like every single person she had ever been in a relationship with, she had stabbed or shot at or something really crazy like that. But a lot of the times people didn't press charges against her. So Randy had like a longer history than she did that you could physically see. So police find out where they're living. They're living in a small rental home way out in the middle of nowhere on the outskirts of Gresham. And back then there was a lot of like houses like that would be just right out in the middle of the woods, and probably still there's a lot of places like that in Oregon. Gresham has grown a lot, so I'm not sure. It's more like kind of like a dare I say, kind of a slummy place compared to Portland, which now Portland has become pretty slummy too, but doesn't matter. Doesn't have anything to do with this right now. So anyways, they go to their house, and of course they're already gone. So the assumption is that as soon as they dumped the body, that they fled. So they got to do a good search of the home because the owner let them in. So they checked the house, and knowing these two people is probably like super messy and disgusting. But they did notice a big chunk of carpet missing, just cut away. Never, ever a good sign. And they were looking for blood. There was a little bit of blood underneath where they had taken the carpet away. So they kept searching for anything that they could find. And they looked underneath the bed, and they found the other little turquoise earring. So that was a really great moment. Things were just moving really quickly in this, and that's actually usually not the case. So they were really on top of it. They were really doing a good job. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Anyways, they put out a manhunt. They start looking for him. FBI get involved. They're trying to find these two individuals. And so they decide to look into where they came from, Wisconsin. And sure enough, they had gotten in touch with like family members saying, hey, we need a place to crash, or whatever the case may be. So everyone heads to Wisconsin. They find the van parked at a place in Green Bay called the Titletown Hotel. So they call for backup because they want this to go as smoothly as possible. And they go inside of the hotel. Did I say hotel or motel? Either way. Go inside, and just for the heck of it, they decide to see, hey, are these two people checked in here? And sure enough, they were checked in there under their real names. They weren't under fake names or anything like that. So pretty confident, brazen. Seemed like they didn't care that much about getting caught, I guess. But so they're in Green Bay here, checked in, and in fact, the person that they talked to says, yeah, we know them. We know Debra Lynn. She actually works here at the restaurant. And we know Randy too. Super nice guy. He got a job here in town too. So just like that, they kill a person, go to a different town, boom, start their lives over. No big deal, which is crazy. But they said, actually, they're here in the restaurant right now. You're in luck. So they went in and asked them if they were who they were. They said yes, and they arrested them. No problem. So it went pretty smoothly. Meanwhile, there's other officers that are going to search the van. So in the van, they found that rolled up carpet that was completely soaked in blood. They just kept it in their van the whole time. And they drove really far from Oregon to Wisconsin. I feel like they had plenty of opportunities to get rid of it, but these people seem really impulsive. None of this seemed planned. It seemed like something that just happened and got out of control. I don't know. All I know is they're nasty scumbags. And they kept that bloody rug with them the whole time. And so, I mean, it was smoking gun after smoking gun. They had their people. So they take them back, and that's when a little bit of trouble happened. Randy was kind of fighting the extradition. She wasn't, yada, yada, yada. So Randy's story was that they went out, everything matched up, but the real question was what happened at the house. He said that they were in agreement they were all going to have a threesome. His wife was into women. So he said that his wife went downtown on him, and then he lost it. It was over, so he went in the other room to pass out while the girls continued on. And then he was later on awoken by the sound of her stabbing the other girl. So that's his story. He only helped her dispose of the body. Now, her story was different. Probably neither one of the stories are fully true, but she did say that all three of them were involved. They were being sexual with each other. And at some point, they decided to start strangling her, and then Randy held her down while Debra Lynn stabbed her repeatedly. She was also severely beaten. So she had black eyes. Her face was very beaten. She was stabbed, I think it was between 4 and 7 times is what they could tell. She did have a specimen in her mouth after death, which matched to Randy. So we've got everything lined up. It's pretty obvious that they both were involved in this, and he has a teardrop tattooed, so it seems like this isn't his first rodeo. He's been in prison a lot of times. They're both really violent, but they're both trying to not come off so bad, I think. I think that that's pretty much what everyone does when they're in this situation. So Randy was found guilty on all counts, and there were many. But he was sentenced to 20 years to life, which was the minimum out of all of the choices. So I found that to be strange. I think that it was because they couldn't say exactly which person did the stabbing. Anyways, Debra Lynn, she was found guilty on all counts also, but she got the full life sentence, which is a minimum of 40 years. So she got a heavier sentence. Take with that what you will. There is speculation that Randy is connected to at least one other murder. He does have the teardrop tattooed on, so maybe that happened while he was locked up. But there is a body that may be connected to him, a man's body in a different town. There's not any confirmation about this, but I saved the best part for the end. I mentioned Randy's tattoos. There was one tattoo that I didn't mention, and it was the tattoo that he got on the tip of his penis of yet a different ex-girlfriend's name. Hopefully it was like Bev or Jen. Anyways, it probably wasn't Tiffany or something. Anyways, that's the story of Debra's end, a sad, terrible end. I just hope that she was out of it before a lot of the pain happened. Anyways, this is the look, this is the hair, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.